In my first life, I was the perfect wife, the doting mother, the woman who believed in the sanctity of our vows. Then I found the receipts, the late night texts, the whispers of another woman's name on his lips. His name was Marcus, my husband, and her name was Vivian, my friend. He told everyone I was crazy, that my grief over a recent miscarriage had unhinged my mind, and the world believed him. They watched as I was stripped of my home, my dignity, and my daughter, Emma. I died with a broken heart in a sterile white room, clutching a photograph of the child who had been taught to fear me, the echo of a judge's gavel declaring me mentally unfit, my final memory. The divorce papers burn in my trembling hands, the crisp edges of the paper feeling like 1,000 tiny razors against my skin. I'm not just reading the words, I am reliving a nightmare. Across the sterile mahogany table, Marcus's lawyer, a shark in a tailored suit named Mr. Davies, drones on, his voice a monotonous weapon. He reads from the psychiatric evaluation, and the clinical, cruel words are identical to the ones that shattered my soul in my first life. Exhibits clear signs of paranoia and delusional ideation, a history of emotional instability making her an unfit mother. My gaze drifts to Marcus. He sits there, the picture of concerned sorrow, his handsome face etched with a carefully rehearsed pain. He dares to look at me with pity, a flicker of feigned sympathy in his dark eyes that makes my stomach turn. Clinging to his leg, her small hand clutching the fine wool of his trousers, is my 3-year-old daughter, Emma. My Emma. Her blonde curls are a messy halo around her head, and her blue eyes, so much like mine, are wide and confused. Then she does it. She looks past Marcus towards the woman sitting primly beside him, and her little voice, a sweet, innocent bell, rings out in the suffocating silence of the room. Mama! The word is a dagger, and it twists in my heart. The woman is Vivian. Her perfectly styled auburn hair gleams under the harsh fluorescent lights, her lips pressed into a semblance of a sympathetic smile for the benefit of the lawyers and the court-appointed mediator. She gives a tiny, almost imperceptible shake of her head, a silent command for Emma to be quiet. But the damage is done. The reporters outside, the ones Marcus's PR team so graciously tipped off, will have their headline. They will capture this moment, this tableau of the new, stable family replacing the crazy, unstable mother. The metallic taste of blood fills my mouth. I've bitten down on the inside of my cheek, a desperate physical anchor to stop myself from screaming. The low, incessant buzzing of the overhead lights sounds like a swarm of angry wasps, mirroring the frantic chaos in my own head. My chest tightens, a familiar, crushing pressure. It's the panic I remember so well, the breath-stealing terror that they all pointed to as proof. See? See how she reacts? She's not well. In my first life, this was the moment I shattered. I lunged, I screamed, I begged, I played my part in his script perfectly, cementing my own doom. But this isn't my first life. This time, the panic is a cold, hard stone in my gut, not a fire. It's fuel. I force myself to breathe, slow and steady. In. Out. I can feel their eyes on me, waiting for the explosion, waiting for the mad woman to perform her act. Marcus is leaning forward slightly, a predator sensing the final, convulsive moments of his prey. Vivian's smile has a sharper, more eager edge to it now. I give them nothing. I simply lower the papers to the table. My hands steady now, the tremor gone. I smooth out a crease with my thumb, a small, deliberate gesture of control. There are 22 hours until the custody hearing is finalized. 22 hours until a judge, swayed by this mountain of fabricated evidence and my husband's heart-wrenching testimony, signs the order that will sever me from my child's life forever. Marcus is confident. He's already moved Vivian and her belongings into our family home, the home I decorated, the home where I brought our daughter back from the hospital. He thinks the game is over. He thinks he's already won, but he doesn't know about the silver locket nestled against my skin, hidden beneath the high collar of my blouse. It was a gift from my grandmother, a simple, unassuming piece of jewelry. In this life, it's my Trojan horse. It feels heavier than it should, not from the weight of the silver, but from the tiny, high-fidelity recording device I had a specialist install inside it 2 weeks ago. It has captured every lie, every whispered conspiracy, every moment of his meticulous, cruel campaign. I meet Marcus's gaze across the table. The pity in his eyes wavers, replaced by a flicker of confusion. He expected tears. He expected a breakdown. He did not expect this unnerving calm, this chilling quiet. For the first time in this long, agonizing process, a sliver of doubt enters his expression. It's a beautiful thing to see. I hold his gaze for a beat longer, letting him simmer in that unfamiliar discomfort. Then I turn to my lawyer, a woman named Miss Albright, who looks at me with a mixture of professional concern and personal exhaustion. She thinks we're losing. She thinks her client is, if not completely unstable, then certainly outmaneuvered. I need a moment, I say, my voice even. Before anyone can object, I stand and walk toward the door, my posture straight, my steps measured. The weight of their stares follows me, but for the first time, it doesn't feel like a burden. It feels like an audience, waiting for a show they have no idea they've already bought tickets for. The clock is ticking, but this time it's not ticking down to my destruction. It's a countdown to his. The hallway outside the conference room is a stark, impersonal space of beige walls and scuffed linoleum. The air is stale with the scent of cheap coffee and anxiety. I find a deserted alcove near the water fountain, the burbling of the machine a welcome distraction from the buzzing in my head. My hands are shaking again, but this time it's with adrenaline, not despair. I pull out my phone, my thumb hovering over the screen that holds my first real weapon. In my past life, my phone was a source of torment. It was the device through which I found the evidence of his betrayal, cryptic texts, photos I wasn't meant to see. It became a symbol of my obsession, something his lawyers used against me. She would spend hours scrolling, Your Honor, looking for things that weren't there, manufacturing conspiracies. Now it's an instrument of justice. I open an encrypted messaging app, a conversation with my lawyer, Miss Albright, already waiting. With a few taps, I attach the file. It's an audio clip, just under 3 minutes long, recorded by the locket around my neck. The file name is simple, Marcus_plan_a.mp3. I type out a message, my fingers flying across the glass. Miss Albright, please listen to this immediately. It's an audio recording of Marcus discussing his strategy to discredit me with Vivian. It was recorded 3 months ago before I ever discovered the affair and filed for divorce. This is premeditated. I hit send. The small checkmark on the screen confirms its delivery. It's done. The first domino has been pushed. My next message is to Marcus, a simple, direct text. His phone number is still saved under husband in my contacts, a bitter relic of a life that feels like a century ago. Check your email. We need to talk. I don't send him the file. I send the message to the email address for his personal lawyer, Mr. Davies, with a copy to Marcus's work account, the one monitored by his company's compliance department. The subject line is blunt. Urgent. Audio evidence regarding Sterling v. Sterling custody case. I can picture the scene inside that room. Miss Albright, a diligent, by-the-book lawyer, will see my message first. She'll be skeptical, probably annoyed at what she assumes is another desperate, unsubstantiated claim from her difficult client. But she's thorough. She will put on her headphones, press play, and her world will shift. Then, a moment later, a buzz. Marcus will glance down at his phone, see my name, and a wave of irritation will cross his face. He'll think it's a plea, a final, pathetic attempt to appeal to his non-existent better nature. But before he can even formulate a dismissive thought, his lawyer's phone will buzz too. Mr. Davies will see the email, his professional curiosity piqued. I don't have to wait long. The conference room door swings open with a sharp creak, and Marcus strides out, his face a mask of thunderous rage. He spots me in the alcove, and his long legs eat up the distance between us in seconds. "Elena, what did you do?" he hisses, his voice a low, dangerous growl. He's smart enough not to raise it in a public hallway, but the fury radiates from him in palpable waves. "I did what I had to do, Marcus," I say, my voice quiet but firm. I refuse to be intimidated. I've seen this anger before, lived through it, been broken by it, not again. "What was that email? What did you send?" He grabs my arm, his fingers digging into my flesh. The touch is a shock, a violation. In the first life, I would have flinched, cried out. Now I just look down at his hand on my arm, then back up to his face. my expression utterly flat. Let go of me, Marcus. He seems taken aback by my lack of reaction. His grip loosens slightly, but he doesn't release me. Not until you tell me what you're playing at. Just then, the conference room door opens again. It's Mr. Davies. He looks pale, his usual smug confidence replaced by a frantic urgency. He makes a sharp, cutting gesture with his hand. Marcus, inside, now. Before Marcus can respond, the bailiff's voice echoes down the hall. 30-minute recess. Court will reconvene at 2:30. The timing is perfect. Mr. Davies shoots me a venomous glare, one that promises retribution, before steering his bewildered client back into the room. Through the closing door, I see Vivian fidgeting with the strap of her ridiculously expensive designer purse, her brow furrowed with worry. She knows something has gone wrong. She just doesn't know what yet. I walk back towards the conference room, my heart pounding a triumphant rhythm against my ribs. I peek through the small glass window in the door. I can't hear them, but I can see everything. Miss Albright is sitting at the table, her own tablet in front of her. Her face, which was drawn and tired just minutes ago, is now alive with a fierce, focused energy. Her eyebrows are practically at her hairline as she listens, rewinding a section of the audio file. She looks up at me through the glass, and for the first time since she took my case, she gives me a look of profound, unadulterated shock and respect. Across from her, the scene is one of controlled chaos. Marcus is pacing, his hands clenched into fists, his face ashen. Mr. Davies is whispering urgently in his ear, his expression grim. He's likely explaining the legal ramifications of what they've just heard. Premeditated character assassination? Conspiracy to commit perjury? It's not just a messy divorce anymore. It's a potential criminal case. I can hear Marcus's voice in my memory, captured perfectly by the locket's tiny microphone. We just need to build the narrative, Viv, he had said, his voice smooth and confident as they sat in what he thought was the privacy of his car. A few public outbursts, some erratic texts. We'll get Dr. Harrison on board. By the time we get to court, everyone will believe she's lost her mind. The gaslighting timeline is key. It has to look like her discovery of us is the final straw that broke her, not the cause of our breakup. My lawyer looks up from her tablet, her eyes locking with mine again. She gives me a slow, deliberate nod. It's a signal. The tide has turned. I take a deep, shuddering breath, the stale hallway air suddenly feeling fresh and clean. The game has changed. For months, I've been on the defensive, reacting to his moves, falling into his traps. Now, for the first time, he is reacting to me, and he has no idea what's coming next. The 30-minute recess feels like both an eternity and a split second. My mind is racing, cataloging every piece of evidence I've compiled, every lie I'm prepared to dismantle. I need to ground myself, to find a moment of quiet before the next storm breaks. I make my way to the ladies' room, the stark white tiles and cold chrome fixtures a welcome change from the oppressive wood and leather of the conference room. I splash cold water on my face, looking at my reflection in the large, unforgiving mirror. The woman looking back is different from the one who stood here in another lifetime. That woman was hollow-eyed, her face streaked with tears, her reflection a stranger she no longer recognized. This woman is pale, yes, and there are faint purple smudges under her eyes from sleepless nights, but her gaze is steady. It's the gaze of a soldier, not a victim. The heavy door creaks open behind me, and the scent of expensive, cloying perfume fills the small space. I don't need to turn around. I know who it is. Vivian's reflection appears in the mirror, sharp and predatory, her image materializing just over my shoulder. She stands there for a moment, her arms crossed over her chest, trying to project an aura of casual dominance. You think you're clever, don't you? She begins, her voice low and venomous, a silken threat. She takes a step closer, crowding me against the cold porcelain of the sink. Whatever little trick you just pulled in there, it won't work. Marcus has everything under control. I dry my hands slowly with a paper towel, my movements deliberate. Does he? He looked rather flustered to me. Her painted lips thin into a sneer. He's just angry that you're making this so difficult. You should have just taken the settlement, Elena. You could have walked away with some dignity. There's no dignity in being silenced, I say, meeting her gaze in the mirror, or in having my child stolen from me based on a web of lies. This is her cue. She moves to her counter threat, the one she believes is her trump card. You want to talk about lies? You think your little audio recording is so powerful? She leans in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Marcus has video, Elena. A video of you screaming at Emma, losing control. A video of you looking like a complete monster. The judge will take one look at that and it's over. Who do you think they'll believe is crazy then? I remember that day. I remember the fight, the frustration, the way Emma had been crying inconsolably for hours. I remember finally snapping, my voice rising in a raw, ragged shout of pure exhaustion and despair. In my first life, that video was the nail in my coffin. It was presented as irrefutable proof of my instability, the final, damning piece of evidence. But this time, I know how it was made. I turn from the mirror to face her directly, closing the small distance between us. She's taller than me by a few inches, especially in her heels, but I don't let her intimidate me. I hold her gaze, my own expression unreadable. You mean the video from the nursery? I ask calmly. The one from the hidden nanny cam that Marcus installed without telling me? A flicker of uncertainty crosses her face. She wasn't expecting me to know about the camera. It doesn't matter how he got it. What matters is what it shows. Oh, I agree, I say, letting a small, cold smile touch my lips. It shows a lot. For instance, if you listen very, very carefully, just before I start yelling, you can hear another voice in the video. A very quiet voice coaching Emma, telling her not to stop crying, telling her that mommy is being mean. Your voice, Vivian. Her confidence evaporates. The color drains from her perfectly made-up face, leaving her looking stark and brittle under the fluorescent lights. That's impossible, she stammers, her voice losing its venomous edge and becoming thin and reedy. That's a lie. We deleted that part. Marcus had it professionally edited. I'm sure he did, I say, taking a step back, giving myself room to breathe. The air in here is suddenly thick with her panic. He deleted his copy, but he forgot about the cloud. I let the word hang in the air between us. Cloud. Such a simple, innocuous word, but for her it's a death knell. You see, I continue, my voice soft, almost conversational. That fancy, top-of-the-line security system Marcus was so proud of? The one with all the hidden cameras? It came with a family subscription plan for cloud storage. Everything recorded was automatically backed up to a central secure server. Every camera, every angle, every raw, unedited second of footage. And since I was still technically his wife when he set it up, my name is on the account. I have full access. Her sharp intake of breath is masked by the sound of a toilet flushing in one of the stalls. She understands. She understands completely. Not only do I have the unedited video of her coaching my daughter to cry, but I have everything else. Every secret conversation in the kitchen, every stolen kiss in the hallway, every moment they thought they were safe and hidden in my own home. You're bluffing, she whispers, but there's no conviction in her voice. It's a question, a desperate plea. I just smile. Am I? Marcus paid a lot of money to have that video edited. I wonder how the judge will feel when she learns about evidence tampering on top of everything else. It's a felony, you know. I turn back to the mirror, reapplying a touch of lipstick, as if we were just two women having a casual chat. My hand is perfectly steady. Vivian remains frozen behind me, her reflection a portrait of dawning horror. She came in here to threaten me, to put me back in my place. She thought she was the one holding all the cards, but this isn't her game to play, it's mine. And I've just shown her that my hand is infinitely stronger than she could have ever imagined. She watches me, her mind clearly racing, trying to calculate the damage, to find a way out of the trap she now realizes she's in. But there is no way out. The truth, once backed up, can't be deleted. The 30-minute recess stretches into an hour. The air in the hallway crackles with unspoken tension. When the doors to the conference room finally open, it's not to call us back to court. Instead, Mr. Davies, his face a grim shade of gray, approaches the mediator and requests an emergency sidebar with the judge. My lawyer, Miss Albright, gives me a sharp, questioning look. I just give a slight shake of my head. Let it play out. They disappear into the judge's chambers, leaving me, Marcus, and Vivian in a strained, suffocating silence in the hallway. Marcus won't look at me. He stands by the window, staring out at the bustling street below, his shoulders rigid. He's a statue of impotent fury. Vivian sits on a hard plastic chair, her gaze fixed on the floor, twisting the strap of her purse into a mangled knot. The confident, vicious woman from the bathroom has vanished, replaced by a pale, frightened girl who is starting to understand the magnitude of her mistake. I take a seat opposite her, maintaining a calm, neutral posture. Inside, my heart is a hummingbird's wings. This is the pivot point. This is where the foundation of his entire world begins to crumble. Yeah, but when they return 20 minutes later, the judge's expression is thunderous. She doesn't even glance at Marcus. Her eyes are fixed on the lawyers. She grants an immediate adjournment for the rest of the day. The custody hearing scheduled for tomorrow is postponed indefinitely, pending review of new evidence. She says the word evidence with a sharp, pointed emphasis that makes Mr. Davies flinch. Victory, a small but critical victory. As people begin to file out, Miss Albright pulls me aside, her eyes blazing with a newfound fire. "What else do you have, Elena?" she whispers, her voice a mixture of awe and disbelief. That audio file was a bombshell. The judge is furious. She's talking about referring this to the district attorney's office for potential perjury charges. But the request for the sidebar, the indefinite postponement, that feels like more than just one audio file. I hand her a slim, nondescript USB drive from my purse. "This is for you. Don't open it here. It's encrypted. The password is Emma's birthday." She looks at the drive, then back at me. "Elena." "It's everything, Miss Albright," I say quietly. The unedited video files from the house, but more importantly, the financials. This was never just about custody. It was about money. And that was the truth I had learned too late in my first life. The campaign to prove me crazy wasn't just born of cruelty. It was a business decision. Marcus was on the verge of a massive merger with his tech company. A clean, amicable divorce with a modest settlement would have been fine. But a contested divorce, one where I, as his wife of 10 years, was entitled to half of his assets, including his shares in the company right before they quadrupled in value, was unacceptable. An unstable, discredited wife, on the other hand, could be forced to take a pittance. A crazy woman couldn't be trusted to manage millions of dollars. A crazy woman would lose custody, and with a child to support, Marcus could justify controlling all the assets. It was a cold, brutal calculation. The USB drive contains the fruits of my last 6 months of quiet, painstaking work. While Marcus was busy hiring psychiatrists to declare me insane, I was hiring a forensic accountant. While he was coaching Vivian on how to document my erratic behavior, I was tracking his digital footprint. "There are offshore accounts, Miss Albright," I explain in a low voice. 3 of them. He's been siphoning funds from his company for the last 18 months, hiding marital assets in preparation for this divorce. We're not just talking about what he's declared. We're talking about an additional $12 million at least. My lawyer's mouth falls open slightly. She stares at the USB drive in her hand as if it's a live grenade. How did you get this?" "He got sloppy," I lie, because the truth is too unbelievable. The truth is, I knew exactly where to look because I remembered the name of the bank from a stray piece of paper I found in his study in my first life, a detail that meant nothing to me then but means everything now. And he hired private investigators to follow me. 3 of them, to be exact. He what? He wanted to document my mental decline. He wanted pictures of me looking distressed, reports of me acting paranoid. It's all in there, the invoices, the payments, the reports from the PIs themselves. I pause, letting the weight of it sink in. He was building a case to defraud me, and in the process, he committed wire fraud and tax evasion. The merger he's so desperate to complete? The SEC would have a field day with this. It could tank the entire deal. It could send him to prison. Miss Albright slowly closes her hand around the drive, her knuckles white. The exhaustion is gone from her face, replaced by the keen, predatory focus of a lawyer who has just been handed a winning case on a silver platter. This is no longer just a family law matter, it's a multi-million-dollar fraud case. I allow myself a small internal smile. In 6 months, I'll be standing in this same courthouse, maybe even this same hallway. But I won't be the defendant in a custody hearing. I will be the plaintiff in a fraud case worth $12 million. The psychiatric reports will be exhibits for the prosecution, evidence of his conspiracy. The private investigators he hired to ruin my life will be subpoenaed to testify against him. I look over at Marcus, who is now in a heated, whispered argument with his lawyer. The fear is rolling off him now, a palpable stench of panic. He thought he was in control. He thought he was the puppet master, pulling all the strings. He never once considered that the puppet might cut herself free, pick up the strings, and start pulling back. I straighten my shoulders, the familiar pain of my past life no longer a crushing weight, but a source of power. It has been transformed, honed into something sharp and precise. He wanted to break me, to erase me. Instead, he forged me into the weapon that will bring about his own destruction. The board is set, the pieces are in motion, and he is in checkmate. He just doesn't know it yet. The next 48 hours are a blur of frantic legal activity. Miss Albright works like a woman possessed, fueled by caffeine and the righteous fury of a lawyer who has discovered her client was not just wronged, but systematically targeted. We file an emergency motion submitting the initial audio clip and a summary of the financial documents as preliminary evidence. The judge, already incensed, schedules a new hearing for the following week. The indefinite postponement is over. Now, it's an expedited hearing on the grounds of potential fraud and evidence tampering. The tone has shifted from my mental fitness to Marcus's criminal liability. The morning of the new hearing, the atmosphere in the courtroom is electric. The gallery is packed. Marcus's impending merger was big news in the financial world, and whispers of fraud have drawn reporters like sharks to blood. Marcus and Vivian arrive looking haggard. The strain is evident in the tense set of his jaw and the dark circles under her eyes, which no amount of concealer can hide. They sit at the defendant's table, a chasm of cold silence between them. The loving, united front has completely disintegrated. I sit with Miss Albright, a calm island in the center of the storm I created. On the table in front of me is a simple, unassuming manila envelope. It's my next move, my second strike. After the initial procedural formalities, Miss Albright stands. Your Honor, before we proceed, the plaintiff has one more set of documents she would like to present to the defendant for review. The judge nods, her gaze stern. Proceed. I pick up the envelope. I don't give it to a bailiff. I stand, walk the 10 feet to the defendant's table, and slide it across the polished surface myself. My eyes meet Marcus's. They are filled with a toxic mixture of hatred and fear. His hands shake as he reaches for the envelope. He fumbles with the clasp, his usual smooth dexterity gone. He pulls out the contents. The first things he sees are the photographs. They're not salacious or illicit. Not in the way he'd expect. The first is a crisp, clear shot of a lease agreement for a high-end apartment in the city, signed by him 3 months ago. An apartment I never knew existed. His secret sanctuary with Vivian. The second is a photograph of a utility bill for that same apartment, paid from one of the undeclared offshore accounts. It's a direct, irrefutable link. But it's the next document that makes the air leave his lungs in a choked gasp. It's a copy of a medical record from a private clinic. It's a lab report for Vivian, showing a positive pregnancy test. The date on the report is 2 months before our 10th wedding anniversary. The one where he gave a tearful, loving speech about our decade of happiness, all while knowing his mistress was carrying his child. In my first life, they announced the pregnancy right after the divorce was finalized, framing it as a new beginning after so much pain. They tried to make it look like a whirlwind romance that blossomed from the ashes of our marriage. This document proves it was a long, calculated deception. Marcus's head snaps up, his face a ghastly white. He hisses my name through clenched teeth, his voice a ragged whisper that carries across the silent courtroom. Where did you get these? I don't answer him directly. I let my voice ring out, clear and steady, for the judge and the entire court to hear. From the same private investigator you hired to stalk me. A collective gasp ripples through the gallery. Mr. Davies leaps to his feet, but Marcus is lost, his eyes locked on mine, his mind reeling. The first one you hired, a man named Mr. Chen. I continue, my tone even, almost conversational. He was very thorough. He followed me for weeks, documenting my every move. But he's an old-school professional. He got curious about why a wealthy man like you would be so obsessed with proving his wife was unstable. So he did a little digging on his own. He discovered the apartment. He discovered the pregnancy. He realized he was being used as a pawn in a fraud, and it offended his professional sensibilities. He contacted me last week. He was more than happy to provide a sworn affidavit, along with his complete unedited files. For a fee, of course. A fee I was more than happy to pay. Marcus leans forward, his desperation palpable. All pretense of the calm, collected businessman is gone. He is a cornered animal. Elena, please, he begs, his voice cracking. Think about Emma. He dares to use our daughter's name. He dares to use her as a shield after trying to rip her away from me. The cold fury in my veins turns to ice. I cut him off, my voice sharp and cold as steel. I am thinking about Emma. I think about her every second of every day. That's why I'm doing this. That's why she is never, ever going to grow up believing the lie that her mother was crazy. She is going to grow up knowing her father was a criminal. The judge's gavel hovers in the air, a suspended thunderbolt. The afternoon sun streams through the tall arched windows, casting long, dramatic shadows across the evidence scattered on the table. Evidence of his lies, his greed, and his ultimate betrayal. Vivian is openly weeping now, not for Marcus, but for herself. Her dream of a life of effortless wealth and social standing is dissolving before her very eyes. Marcus stares at me, his face a mask of utter devastation. He sees it now. He sees the checkmate I saw days ago. He understands that I know everything. Not just the things a wronged wife might discover, but the deep, hidden secrets he thought were buried forever. He looks at me as if I'm a ghost, a specter risen from the grave of the woman he thought he had destroyed, come back to claim her justice. And in a way, he's right. Against his lawyer's frantic advice, Marcus insists on taking the stand. It's a last, desperate gamble, a Hail Mary pass from a man who believes his own charisma can still salvage the wreckage. He believes he can talk his way out of this, that he can respin the narrative, paint himself as a flawed man who made mistakes, but not a monster, not a criminal. He's wrong. He walks to the witness box, his steps heavy, his expensive suit looking rumpled and ill-fitting for the first time. He avoids looking at me, his gaze fixed on the judge. He swears the oath, his voice tight and strained. Mr. Davies begins with a series of gentle, leading questions, trying to establish a foundation of sympathy. He asks about the pressures of his work, the unfortunate breakdown of our marriage, his love for his daughter. Marcus answers them with rehearsed sincerity, his voice regaining some of its familiar, persuasive cadence. He's performing, trying to win over his audience. Then, it's Miss Albright's turn for cross-examination. She approaches the witness box, her demeanor calm but relentless. She carries a binder thick with documents. My evidence. She begins softly, her questions seemingly innocuous. Mr. Sterling, you testified that you were deeply concerned for your wife's mental health following her miscarriage. Is that correct? Yes, deeply concerned, Marcus says, nodding gravely. She wasn't herself. I was worried. Worried enough to seek professional help for her. Of course, I consulted with Dr. Harrison, a respected psychiatrist. Miss Albright opens her binder. Let's talk about Dr. Harrison. According to his initial notes, which we have subpoenaed, you told him during your first consultation, and I quote, "My wife is becoming emotionally volatile. She needs to be managed." Did you say that, Mr. Sterling? Marcus shifts in his seat. That was taken out of context. I was distressed. Were you distressed when you authorized a payment of $50,000 from your undeclared Cayman Islands account to Dr. Harrison's personal consulting firm 2 weeks later? Miss Albright's voice is sharp, cutting. A payment he failed to disclose as a conflict of interest? The courtroom gallery fills with a wave of whispers. Mr. Davies is on his feet. Objection! Relevance? Your Honor, Miss Albright counters smoothly. This line of questioning goes directly to the heart of the fraudulent conspiracy to misrepresent my client's mental state for financial gain. Objection overruled, the judge says, her eyes fixed on Marcus. Answer the question, Mr. Sterling. Marcus's face reddens. He stammers, "It was a donation for his research." A donation he didn't declare, made from an illegal account you didn't declare? How very charitable of you. Miss Albright doesn't wait for an answer. She moves on, relentless. Let's turn to the audio recording from your vehicle dated 3 months ago, the one where you are speaking with Miss Vivian Rose. She plays a short clip, just a few seconds, but it's enough. Marcus's voice fills the courtroom, clear and damning. The gaslighting timeline is key. It has to look like her discovery of us is the final straw that broke her. Mr. Sterling? Miss Albright asks, her voice ringing with authority. When you said Vivian understands the plan, what plan exactly were you referring to? His composure finally cracks. The carefully constructed mask of the concerned husband and pillar of the community shatters into a million pieces. His lawyer is shouting objections, but Marcus doesn't hear him. He snaps, his voice rising, raw and uncontrolled. It wasn't supposed to go this far, he yells, his eyes wild as he finally looks at me, a desperate, accusing glare. This was just leverage. That's all it was. The court reporter's fingers fly across her keyboard, capturing every word of his frantic confession. She was going to take half of everything right before the merger, he continues, his voice escalating into a near scream, pointing a shaking finger at me. Half of my company, everything I worked for. The settlement was fair, generous even, but she wouldn't take it. So yes, we had a plan. A plan to make her seem difficult, unreasonable. Elena was supposed to just take the settlement and disappear. Be a weekend mom. We never meant for her to actually lose custody. It was just leverage. The word hangs in the air. Leverage. He has just admitted in open court to conspiring to create a false narrative about my mental health in order to gain a financial advantage in a divorce proceeding. He has confessed to the very heart of the fraud. Mr. Davies slumps back into his chair, his face buried in his hands. He knows it's over. Vivian is staring at Marcus with a look of pure, unadulterated horror, as if seeing him for the first time. He has not only confessed to his own crimes, but he has implicated her as a co-conspirator in his frantic outburst. I press my hand to my chest, my fingers finding the cool, smooth surface of the silver locket. I feel the solid weight of it against my skin, a silent testament to the truth it helped uncover. The weight of justice, which for so long felt impossibly heavy and out of reach, is finally decisively tipping in my favor. The judge's expression is like carved stone. She looks from Marcus's unraveling form to the stack of fabricated psychiatric reports on her desk, then to the printed-out bank statements with their damning trail of payments leading directly from his secret accounts to the people he paid to destroy me. The gavel comes down, not with a sharp crack, but with a deep, resonant thud that seems to shake the very foundations of the room. It's a sound of finality, a sound of judgment, the sound of his world ending and mine finally beginning again. In the quiet aftermath, as the lawyers swarm and the bailiffs lead a stunned, mumbling Marcus from the courtroom, Emma, who has been waiting with my friend Sophie in a nearby room, runs to me. Her small arms wrap around my legs, her face buried in my skirt. She looks up at me, her blue eyes wide with a child's simple, devastating clarity. "Is Daddy going away?" she asks, her voice a small whisper. I kneel down, pulling her into a proper hug, breathing in the sweet scent of her hair. "Yes, baby. For a little while." "Because he told lies about Mommy?" My throat tightens, and I feel the hot sting of tears. Real tears this time. Of relief and release, not of pain. I nod, unable to speak. Sophie places a gentle hand on my shoulder, her presence a warm, steady anchor. And in that moment, holding my daughter, I finally understand why I was given this impossible second chance. It wasn't just for me. It was for her. So she would never have to carry the weight of her father's lies. 6 months later, the world is a different color. The oppressive gray of courtrooms and lawyers' offices has been replaced by the brilliant blue of the sky and the sparkling turquoise of the ocean. I'm sitting on a sandy beach, the sun warm on my face, building a lopsided sandcastle with Emma. Her laughter is the only sound that matters. Marcus is serving his sentence. The merger collapsed under the weight of the SEC investigation, and he was convicted of fraud, perjury, and tax evasion. Vivian, in exchange for her testimony against him, received a lighter sentence of probation and community service. She disappeared from public life, a pariah in the social circles she so desperately wanted to conquer. The $12 million from the fraud settlement, expertly managed by Sophie, who turned out to be as brilliant with finances as she is with friendship, sits in a trust. It's not my money, it's Emma's future. It will pay for her college education, her first car, her first apartment. It's the restitution for a childhood he tried to tarnish. Sometimes when the waves pull back from the shore, I catch my reflection in the slick, wet sand. I see the woman I am now, but I also remember the woman I was in that other life. The one who begged and pleaded. The one who screamed into a pillow of despair. The one who just wanted someone, anyone, to believe her. I survived that, and in surviving, I found a strength I never knew I possessed. The silver locket sits in my jewelry box now, its job complete. It's a relic of a war that has been won. But Emma wears a new necklace, a tiny gold heart that I gave her for her 4th birthday. It doesn't hold any secrets or recording devices. When you open it, there are just 2 tiny pictures inside. One of her as a baby and one of me, smiling. We pack up our buckets and shovels as the sun begins to set, painting the sky in fiery strokes of orange and pink. Emma takes my hand, her small fingers fitting perfectly in mine. "I love you, Mommy," she says with the simple, unadulterated truth that only a child can possess. "I love you more," I whisper back, squeezing her hand. We walk away from the water, leaving the sandcastle to the incoming tide. It will be washed away by morning, erased as if it never existed. But we will still be here. We will build a new one tomorrow. Some things, unlike lies, are meant to last. Some things, like the truth, will always find a way to the surface. And some lies, as Marcus learned, are simply too expensive to keep telling.